cried the sparrow.
You're listening to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you for choosing the Sailing into Oblivion podcast. You know, I don't know if I say that enough, but it means a lot that people download, listen, share, all that sort of stuff, and I really do appreciate it. Today, we have a pretty good show, a really good one, I think. And, you know, it's one of those things where I kind of take a little bit of a chance when I'm asking the people that I am working with to slice away a little of our time that they are, you know, essentially they're paying for. I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone, but it is really, really cool to get their take on how things went. So today we have Justin, and Justin is the client now, obviously friend for sure, that I came out here to San Diego to work with. And we're going to sit down and have a bit of a wrap. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, we had to get underway. It was our last day, so I didn't want to spend it all just yapping away. But, you know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Probably the best part of, you know, any job is going to be the people that you get to work with, the people that you get to spend time with. And if the people, if your client, so to speak, and I say quote unquote, because I really, almost everybody, when I think back to everybody that I have done this with so far and the people that I am looking forward to actually doing these in-person sort of coaching sessions with, I'm just, I don't know, I'm like super stoked. This has been like one of the best life choices I think I've ever made, as far as talk about a great way to meet new people and make new friends in, you know, your 40s, which is not always the easiest thing. But you know, think about like Ryan and Joseph and Mark and Steph and just Roberto. I'm obviously probably going to forget a few, but you know, and then looking forward to meeting some other people face to face. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm blessed, and I'm so glad. You know, 3-4 years ago, you never would have imagined this is what I would be sort of filling in some of my time with, but it has been so rewarding on this side of the table that I find it worth mentioning, if anything. But yeah, I mean, to be able to come out and sort of go through the paces and sharpen the skills and get someone over the hump, if you will, and into a comfort zone where they can enjoy their time aboard, because I know from personal experience there are a lot of times where it is just not that way. And while I, you know, fight it alone and all that sort of stuff, I also like to dissect why and how I kind of dampen it down. And that's what I try to do, is share that experience and also, you know, provide a good platform for, hey, let's both of us go out on the boat. And that way you don't have to worry, because I'm not going to let anything bad happen, hopefully. A little caveat there, as there should be. And yeah, let's grind it out and let's get through these issues and get you back on an even keel. No pun intended, or pun intended. I don't know. But this trip in particular has just been absolutely amazing. You know, coming all the way out, going transcontinental with this stuff is a pretty cool feeling. It definitely feels like it's growing. It feels like this is something that I want to keep doing and I want to do more of, because it is, like I said, very fulfilling, very rewarding on my end. And also it seems like everybody that I'm helping out here has felt the same way. So it's absolutely amazing. And yeah, I can't wait to see where this sort of takes us. But Justin was phenomenal, not only with the whole sailing stuff and the boat and everything and just enjoying our time together, but also just hooked it up, dude. Like, we're talking full fridge. Could have done without the cookies. You know, I didn't need, you know, whatever 2,000 calories to get forced into my stomach. And, I guess they were just there. It was a test of willpower. I made it about halfway through this week before I finally caved and started devouring those suckers. But I will say, there is a half gallon of chocolate chip cookie. No, some sort of very delicious frozen ice cream that is in the fridge that is unopened and remains unopened. And as long as I can make it through the night, I will have avoided that one because, beach season is coming up. And it takes a lot longer to work off a half gallon of ice cream than it did about 20 years ago. But that being said, hopefully you enjoy this conversation with Justin, who is, been super, super stoked. A lot of fun, kindred spirit for sure, and I don't think we have seen the last of this young man. And I'm sure we're going to be meeting up down the road, hopefully aboard the Mighty Sparrow, to pass underneath that fabled bridge and enter the lovely skyline of New York City. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll be able to make that happen, fine sir. All right. Without further ado, so before we start the show, like I always say, if you want to help support this podcast, consider becoming part of the Patreon family, or just a couple one-time donations, PayPal, Venmo, all that sort of stuff. The links are in the description. We've got the merch, all the shirts, and then all the books and children's books, audiobook, all the links individually are in there. And then obviously sailingintooblivion.com. If you want to find out about speaking stuff, we're putting together, and it's slowly shaping up, a nice little speaking tour out on Cape Cod, Nantucket, maybe even Martha's Vineyard for this August. So keep an eye out for that. I'll keep you updated. And then, the coaching, consulting, whether it's virtual or in person, you can reach out to me at that website. So hopefully that wasn't too terrible. I'm not really good at self-promotion. What can I say? I just want to say, what I mean, but I know if I got a new listener, it's something I got to say. So got to pay the bills, folks. Got to pay the bills. Thanks for listening so much. And hopefully you enjoy my conversation with Justin out here in San Diego. Thanks for listening. We are live.
Wow.
I know. Cheers, man.
Cheers, dude.
Although we're cheersing with coffee.
Yeah, well,
I got to do the much needed, anticipated for many of my listeners.
Yeah.
Like,
just making love to a cup of coffee.
oh, it's delicious. Justin, thank you for slicing some of our valuable time. I'm on the clock here. Mm-hmm. So I love doing a podcast on the clock.
Yeah. Make it quick, man.
We got sales to put up. No, this has been absolutely phenomenal. Like you're setting the bar very hard, very high for future coaching and consulting and all this sort of stuff. But no, this has been an absolute blast, man.
Oh, it's been great, man. Now you flattered me. It's been so good. Like, we're on day 5 now, and we've learned so much. And we've done so much, and we just had a really good time. It's been homies out there just sailing, getting stoked, right? Dude. It's been so
like I say, dude, one of the best parts is, you get to meet these like-minded people, and you get to not only meet them, but you also get to go through these experiences. And I don't know, there's always just something about that. I mean, obviously it's not as intense as like going to battle or whatever, but those are the sort of lifelong friendships when you have to deal with those things. And obviously it's been pretty tame here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
But still, it's like pressure's on. You were saying like the day one, the feelings that you were feeling just leaving the marina, right?
For sure. I mean, I was having some boat anxiety. I just hadn't been out here for so long. But you're right, to your point, it's just this very galvanizing opportunity to go through something where you're going through this progression and you're going through this progress of learning a skill daily with another individual. Yeah, it allows you to get really stoked and create this sweet bond, which has been great. You also just called it the San Francisco Bay Area, but I'll let it slide. It's San Diego.
Oh, didn't I say San Diego?
Hey, it happens. Oops. There's a lot of sayans out there.
There are a lot.
Hard to keep them straight.
Trust me, and a lot of vistas on those street signs driving up to go see Elliot yesterday.
A lot of Spanish influence down here, so yeah, a lot of vistas.
Well, dude, I just had a brainstorm. Why not? That should be like, how they used to do like speed dating, right? And it'd just be around the table. you got to add a little adventure challenge into each one where it's like you get linked up with a partner and then you got to go do like a ropes course. Impediment.
Yeah, that could go really great or really horrible. But I guess, yeah, you're going to figure out if you're compatible with this individual afterwards.
Well, because that's the thing, I think you come across the true colors of people when they're taken out of their comfort zone.
Yep.
And, then you just get to see it as type of person is just going to panic and freak out. Because when you are in that position, I know from my own experience, like, that's when you're sort of like, I don't care what anybody thinks about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it because I am worried,
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, I've always said sailing is a great way to level the playing field. I think I first discovered that many, many years ago when I want to say on one of my boats, small boat, sailing instructor, all that stuff back in the Caribbean. We had I think he was like the CEO at the time or the founder of Toys R Us. And he was like the first like super high powered, very wealthy person and had a tough time, figuring out the boat and his worries about what we were doing and learning it. And I was like, holy cow, like I'm a 20-year-old knucklehead. Yeah. This guy's, this, that, and the other thing in the world, and he and I are right there. I'm actually far more comfortable right now than he is, and I don't know. It's kind of interesting like that.
It is a good level playing field for sure. Yeah, which is nice. How did he do for the rest of the time?
Oh, I'm sure he did fine. Yeah. I don't remember too much about it. I just remember that I was like, holy cow, that guy like Toys R Us, because that
Oh, it was big. Jeffrey Dollars is big on that, but it's true. I mean, it does show you your true colors when you're on.
Jeffrey Dollars. Yeah. Oh my god. Toys R Us. We, living way up in northern Michigan, we had maybe once a year or something. We'd go down to Indianapolis to visit family, and they had a Toys R Us.
Hell yeah.
And family's great. Whatever. I can remember being like, we're going to Indy. Toys R Us is in the...
J-Rome's going to get a toy, dude.
And that's all it was. It was always just one toy. But,
simpler times, man.
Our one toy a year. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. That's fun, dude. That's good stuff.
No. But, no, this has been, like I said, it's been phenomenal. I mean, not only just the sailing stuff, but I do want to thank you, let me chill at the place and the vehicle and all the stuff and the food.
Yeah, all the cookies.
Except for the cookies.
Yeah, you finished those off?
I did. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerome's all mad at me because I stocked my pantry and my fridge with a bunch of food for him because he's staying down here, want to be well fed and listen to the podcast for quite some time. I know he likes his sweets from time to time. So I had a big thing of cookies that he was wishing I didn't procure for him, and the willpower.
I abstained for the first 3 days, and then I succumbed. And then last night I was like, well, yesterday I ate so many, might as well have a few more. Yeah. And so I ate them all, but I should have, and it's still in the trash, I suppose. So I can look and see what the calorie count was.
No. Ignorance is bliss, man.
Hey, well, like Elliot said, sometimes you just gotta let it go and just move on. So I'm moving forward, and the next adventure on the next boat, I'm gonna try for the first time to really have a regimented exercise routine. Even though obviously you can't go run around the deck, but you can do push-ups and like leg lifts and things like that.
For sure.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
because beach season's coming up
around the corner, man. Got to get the shirts out. Got to get the body looking sick, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So going into day 5, last day, right? So we start off. We're going through all this sort of stuff. Now this is the wrap-up day, kind of the tying up of loose ends. We don't have much wind out there.
No.
But, overall, how are you feeling, if you don't mind me asking, comparison-wise from prior to day one to then now?
Yeah. Maybe I'll just give a slight background.
Yeah.
Just so that people know where I was coming into these 5 days with.
And maybe an introduction to the boat. I got called out the other day because I think it was when I was talking to... Well, I don't know who it was, but I can't. Somebody was like, "Dude, you ought to probably have the person tell you about the boat you're on."
We'll give some context. So, we're on a 1973 Ranger 29, and I have owned 2 boats previously. I have a good amount of kind of at sea experience, but I'm pretty self-taught, and so where I was coming into this 5-day coaching session with Jerome. It's basically like, I have this boat. I live in San Diego. It's very accessible to me. It's in a great marina. It's close to where I live, but I just don't use it very much. And I think the biggest thing of why I don't use it very much is because I'm just not super confident on the boat. And I just don't feel like I have those fundamental skills that allow me to go out there and not be stressed or having anxiety, especially when I'm bringing friends out there who don't know what they're doing and I am in charge of everything and I'm trying to like orchestrate the entire experience. You know, I just hadn't taken my boat out in many, many, many months. And so I was just in this weird rut of like, okay, you know what you're doing generally. You have a boat and it's just, there's a disconnect there that you're just not utilizing it enough because you have this kind of mental hurdle. And so, yeah, now on day 5 compared to day 1, I mean, when we were getting out of the marina in day 1 and I was putting the boat into reverse and I'm cocking the tiller and I'm getting out into the fairway, my heart is just racing because it just hadn't gone out in so long.
Yeah.
And now it's just second nature, you know, we're going in and out so easily. We're being able to do all of these things in a way that allows me to have a ton of confidence and do it just sort of second nature at this point. So yeah, it's been all time. The progress has been nuts. And you probably have seen sort of my demeanor and my kind of chillness, I guess, increase over the days because
just the speed, coming out of the fairway yesterday, I was like, you only up the speed when you're really feeling like, oh yeah, we got this, which is great. But were you surprised yesterday when I had mentioned that I still, like, every time I head out on Sparrow, I'm like, ooh, okay, butterflies.
I was surprised. And it's good to have that sort of, like, it's a good baseline for me of like, okay, well, even the most experienced sailor can still have a little bit of anxiety. Because I think in my head, sometimes I'm like, you should be way more confident than you are. And then it's a positive feedback loop around like questioning your own self. So if you know that, like, even at the upper threshold of experience, there can still be some intrepidation and some anxiety, you know, that is comforting to hear. So it's cool to have you identify with that as well.
Well, and a lot of, I always talk about, you know, especially in ocean, there's so many things that relate from like sailing to then, you know, these whole ideas of trying to overcome these obstacles and anxiety and all that sort of stuff. Out on the ocean, I'm always trying to go with the flow, right? And, you know, I'm not trying to change the boat. Well, I suppose I modify the boat, but I don't try and change the ocean. I don't try and change the things I can't. And one of the things that I've kind of come to realize with the nervousness and the anxiety and stuff is like, I know that I'm going to have that. So I'm not going to try and like make it disappear. I'm going to try and actually just utilize it and go with it. And so by that, I mean, essentially the night before I head off on a voyage, I'm not going to sleep all that much. So instead of just lying there and tossing and turning, I typically utilize that time to then, you know, I got this energy, this anxious energy, and I'm like, well, dude, let's do the engine checks tonight. Let's do this tonight. Let's get extra. Let's go over that one more time. And I always find that once things get like double and triple checked, then all of a sudden the anxiety is a lot less. Then I get a little bit of sleep. And I'm still going to deal with it when I get, you know, underway, but it's a little bit less. And I don't know. The whole idea of like, I just got to fix my brain so I'm not going to get it anymore, I don't think that's like a realistic thing.
And I don't think it's beneficial either. I do think that anxiety and nervousness has general negative connotation, but in a way, it's your brain telling you that you really need to lock in. You need to focus. You need to focus on the preparation. And so if you were just chill the whole time and super confident, then maybe you aren't triple checking everything and then something goes wrong. So
yeah, you get cavalier.
Right. And so there's a nice balance of like, hey, let's manage the anxiety and the nervousness, but channel it in a way, as you're saying, to just over prepare for things and give yourself that confidence. And again, like a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of anxiety is a good thing because it does just help you lock in, focus, and make sure that you're just identifying the task at hand and taking care of it. So you got to embrace it a little bit.
Well, and I kind of almost wonder that in your, you know, in all the chemical reactions that are happening in your brain. Obviously, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I would think that because it's like when you get that like squirt of adrenaline, it's like the world just, and your focus does just, it takes off. And then like almost, you know, they talk about the superhuman strength when you get in those weird situations and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know. It's interesting that you say that because there is this idea that it's like anxiety bad, fear bad. But in some ways, I think I don't know. I think over all the evolutionary years and everything, like our bodies are trying to. I think it's trying to help us through whatever situation we're dealing with. Not to say that I'm like a fan, like I want to be super riddled with anxiety. Like I want to have it mitigated to a manageable level, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It's been really cool, I think, to be able to share my experiences with it and what I've done to deal with it. Because if I could say anything, it's that I just keep trying to go back out there and get on the horse, and I'm not letting it get in my way. And if I can share any or shed any light on that or help anybody else get through, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
It feels really good.
And I think that that's kind of what drew me initially to this coaching session was understanding kind of how you would navigate some of the mental hurdles, not only up-leveling your sailing knowledge and imparting that sort of wisdom on me as well, but also navigating the mental hurdles of like, hey, this is how you manage some of the anxiety and the nervousness even that you feel as well. So it's kind of a nice two-pronged level of education we've gone through over the last 5 days.
Nice. Dude. Well, I'm trying. I don't. It's one of those things where obviously we want to just get out there and have fun, and in doing that, you get back, you shake the rust off, but then you also learn a few new skills. But it's really just the time out there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, dude, we've been out like 5 days in a row. All right, let's take a day off, and then we'll go sailing again. That sort of thing. And in there is that sort of confidence and comfort level, because the ultimate goal is to enjoy the time out there and not be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Yep, and that enjoyment comes from that confidence and the repetition and just getting through things and making sure that you're generally well prepared to handle most situations that we're going to face here out, at least in my circumstance, out here in the San Diego Bay or a little bit out in the Pacific. So yeah, it's nice to be able to go through that in 5 days. I mean, I think if anybody's listening and is curious around the coaching situation that Jerome can provide, it's awesome. I feel like I came into this pretty novice skill level, even though I do have some experience on boats and I've had some quick ownership stints in the past. Like, I wanted to kind of tackle this from square one because I felt like a lot of the skills that I had were self-taught and I didn't know exactly if they were the right way of going about it or
knowing if they're right.
Am I making bad habits?
Yeah.
And that's something that
I always did it that way.
Right. And it worked, but maybe that's just like setting yourself up for danger in the future, whatever. But yeah, over the course of 5 days, really been able to just tackle everything on the boat and, do small things like truing the mast. That's great. And that's something that,
and that was a big part of, because I can remember one thing that stuck out in our back and forth sort of emails and our conversations was like, you were like, just it'd be nice to have somebody kind of be able to look at everything in the systems on the boat and be like thumbs up or thumbs down. Yeah. And so that was, and that's such a smart move because I'm sure I could have quite a few sailors hop aboard Sparrow and they'd be like thumbs down on certain things because I don't know everything. Nobody does. Well, except for maybe, I don't know, Skip Novak or John Kretschmer. Who knows? Shout out to those guys. But it's one of those things. There's a million different ways to do these things as well. But yeah, it's always nice to have a second set of eyes being like, well, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? I mean, my younger brother, Adam, he knows a whole lot more about systems and how to really professionally make sure like your chain plates are great and everything's bedded properly and all this sort of stuff. I'm a little more like, slap it on. She's going to be good. But I know it's going to be good. But he knows not only how to make it good, but professional and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah, just having your eyes on the boat and having to giving it the Jerome stamp of approval is big because like I don't really know,
That's like getting what are the what is it from the food FDA or something in your window of your restaurant, like an A, B, C.
Exactly.
So the Jerome would be like a B. Yeah. If you got the Adam stamp, it would probably be an A plus, probably. Yeah, but
the sanitary grade. Okay, we got a B over here. That's good.
Well, and that's why I was so thankful. Back in the day, he came up for like a long weekend when I was getting Sparrow ready for the big trip, and he helped bed some of the big anchor points for stuff and. we kind of I tapped him for some of the more crucial projects, and to have him up there do that was pretty huge for sure.
Good peace of mind for sure.
Because we never know when things are going to go wrong out at sea.
Yep.
Which leads me to asking you if you wouldn't mind getting into kind of the issues on that one boat and that whole trip, because that trip was pretty epic.
It was epic. Yeah, in 2021, I bought a sailboat down in Linton Bay, Panama, on the north coast of Panama, so on the Caribbean side. And me and my homie Jack went down there. Shout out Jack. Guy quit his job, and I took a big sabbatical, and we were trying to sail from Panama up to New York City, where we both lived at the time. I live in San Diego now, obviously. But it was a 40-foot custom-built center console ketch, which Jerome and I were talking about yesterday. It's configured like a yawl, but the guy I bought it from called it a center console ketch, so we'll go with that. It was a gorgeous boat, made out of steel. It was built in New Zealand, and this was the third owner who had sold it to me, and he had lived on it for 6-7 years in the Caribbean. And awesome guy named Victor, and he grew up, had 2 kids grow up on it with his wife, and so yeah, bought it from him and had pretty grandiose plans with it to sail it back to New York City and then have the boat up there and maybe do some more jaunts up north. My sailing journey at that point was fairly new. I had owned another boat up in Connecticut for like 6 months and taken a few ASA classes and kind of just taught myself there on the Long Island Sound up there. So it was a pretty big adventure to buy this 40-foot boat, and especially
it's a lot of boat.
It's a lot of boat.
A lot of boat.
It was a big one, yeah. But it was also just tough as nails. Like, it was so built, so sturdy, and it was, man.
How much did it weigh?
Yeah, it was like maybe 15 tons. It was big. Yeah, it was huge. But man, it was sturdy as nails, and it was a really. Victor had set it up in a way that was really awesome, and it had a big Nani diesel engine in there with just like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of gallons of fuel capacity in there. He was like, honestly, he's like, if you have anything problems with sales, like, you can just motor all the way up to New York City. You'd have enough diesel in there. But that part of the story will come into play a little bit later. Right. But I mean, the sail was awesome from Panama or from Linton Bay. We went out to the San Blas Islands for a little bit, anchored outside this little island called Chichime, and got some really good waves there for like 5 days. Just Jack and I paddling from the boat into the lineup and just surfing, and just so sick. And then from there, we went up to San Blas in Mexico, and that was like an 8-9 day passage. Everything went super, super well on that. And then from there, went up to the Florida Keys. Got stuck there for a little bit as the system was passing, and our homies Griff and Dan were on board, and felt bad for them a little bit because they would take time off work. We were like, we're going to go sail. We're going to go to Bahamas, and we're kind of just drinking beers all day as the storm comes through on the boat. But that was cool. And then
was it a name storm?
It wasn't. No, it was just like 10 days of like 35 knot winds, and it was coming straight out of the east, and that's the direction that we were trying to go to. And
what time of year would that have been then?
That was early May 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just kind of starting to scratch the surface of the incoming kind of like
hurricane season.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we probably could have sailed. We actually did try to sail out into it one of the days because we were on a bit of a tight time schedule. But we were like, man, Dan's down below just throwing up the whole time. It's his first time ever on a sailboat.
Shout out Dan.
Yeah, sorry, Dan. He's like, is everything okay? We're like, yeah, everything's good, but yeah, it's windy out there. So big swells too. So we were like, let's just go back and wait it out on the hook a little bit.
Smart.
Yeah, and then made it to the Bahamas, and we were in Eleuthera for a while, and that was great. We were kind of anchored right outside. Let's see, one of the keys out there. And yeah, we could make it over to Surfers Beach a little bit and get some waves. And in that 10-day period, we had motored for the last, we went from Freeport to Eleuthera. And in that time, we had to motor for a little bit because the winds were right on the nose, and we were trying to make it to Eleuthera so we could have a little bit of a chill time before we pointed north and went straight to New York City.
That's a big passage, yeah.
Big passage, and there's that real pinch point when you're trying to get into the bay that opens up, that encompasses Eleuthera, and there was a big head current when we were trying to go through that little channel to get in there. So I'm kind of bumping the RPMs a little bit. And the engine light goes on, says it's overheating, and I'm like, oh my God, it's not a good sitch because there's coral on either side of us. So I kind of backed off the engine a little bit, and the engine light went off, and it was fine. And then we go to Eleuthera, and we drop anchor, and me being the idiot that I am, never really checked the engine compartment after we dropped anchor because we were tired. We'd been sailing for the last 2 days, all night and stuff. And, we drop anchor, we surf for a while, and then we go back to start the engine. few days later, and it won't start. And I go down in the engine compartment, and it's just flooded with seawater. And so at some point during that last motoring stint, we had brought in salt water through, I think, the exhaust valve, and it got incorporated into the engine. It got worked through there, and the engine was seized. So that was a huge bummer because at that point, we're only about a week away, 10 days from New York City.
The final leg.
And, we were 2.5 months in at this point, and Jack and I are ready to get back to New York and kind of lick our wounds a little bit and just head back to work in real life and kind of, have these memories of this incredible adventure be memories and get back to civilization. But yeah,
still have the boat too.
Still have the boat. Yeah. I had this great mooring ball off in the Hudson for the summer, and I had all these dreams of going into New York Harbor, popping on the mooring ball. All the pals were going to be there and just getting stoked up for us and kind of hanging on the boat. But at that point, when the engine was done, brought some mechanics on in the Bahamas, and everyone was the same. They were like, yeah, your engine is seized and we don't know exactly what to do here. And there weren't a lot of non diesel mechanics out in the sticks in Eleuthera. So the recommendation at that point was wait for a weather window and pure sail back to Fort Lauderdale, where I did have a non specialist kind of lined up and could look at it a little bit more in depth. And so we did that and waited for the weather window, which was a couple more weeks in Eleuthera. And yeah, the sail was good. We were sailing back and kind of got caught in the Gulf Stream for a little bit with some light winds, but ended up making it to Florida. And yeah, the engine was done and it was going to be way too expensive for me to fix it. So ended up selling the boat. And that was a big bum because it was such an awesome adventure and it was exactly what Jack and I were imagining, and everything had gone so well and we were so stoked. We were learning so much out there and it was great until it wasn't at the end. And so I ended up selling that boat, and now here I am on the other coast and got a new boat. Hopefully things go better this time.
I was so upset I had to switch coasts.
Yeah, got to get away from it. Yeah.
And now that you've shouted that to the world, now they all know.
Yeah.
They'll never look at you the same out here.
I know. I mean, I'm sure there's probably people listening like, dude, what are you doing? You're not checking the engine compartment after a long sail, after a long engine stint?
Although it's one of those things where, I mean, it seems to me, just hearing that, okay, so your RPMs, and I've had plenty of times where I bump the RPMs and the little temperature gauge starts going, and I'm like, ooh, okay, and I back them back down, and then it drops, and I'm like, okay, we're good to go. And had the engine light stayed on, obviously I'm sure, you'd had to do something else. But isn't it funny how it always happens at the worst possible time?
Worst time. I know, man. It was a really bad time because especially we were we were at anchor in this random little key, and things were good. And then all of a sudden, after we had realized that the engine was broken, we were going to be there for a few more weeks. The wind shifted and we couldn't move the boat really because we were anchored right next to these huge rocks. So it was okay. And now the wind's coming straight on the nose and we're sleeping through these super rolly seas every single night. Couldn't even really sleep. So yeah, it was bad. It was a bad time. But shout out to Eleuthera. I mean, man, shout out to the people at Daddy Joe's. God, now I'm messing with the name, but we'd go there. I mean, that was the closest place to walk from the boat to get internet. And we were going to that cafe every single day, grabbing some beers, grabbing some food. Awesome people down there. Really took good care of us while we were trying to figure out everything. And they were so invested in us trying to get off of that island successfully. So
we got to get these guys out of here.
Out of here, man. So
no, they are. They're really good people down there. Those communities. And I mean, if you think about it, there's worse places to be stuck.
Dude, for sure.
That's for sure.
I mean, Jack and his brother Charles, shout out Charles as well, had come in. Charles had come in for the last stint we were going to go down to Nassau and then go pop up to New York City. So we were picking him up, and them the whole time on the boat, they're like, dude, we're stuck here for a little bit, but this is sick. Let's rent a car. Let's go down and check out the things of Eleuthera. Let's go surfing. And I was like, yeah, I am enjoying this, but at the same time, I have this riddled, crazy anxiety in my head of man, this boat might be done, dude.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of my sabbatical's ending, and I've got a lot of, poured a lot of finances into this boat. So, but it's true. Worst places to be stuck. Eleuthera is amazing. Yeah,
it is a tricky thing to slap on a happy face when, or just try and go about your day and do normal stuff when you have this big concern sitting, it's like the monkey on your back or whatever, where you're like,
I know. It's just in the back of your head at all times.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, so, I mean, out of all the lessons that I'm sure you learned on that whole voyage, what do you think was the most poignant, if that's the right word, or most impactful?
Yeah, I think it was really to kind of trust the sailing intuition a little bit more than I had. I kind of let the convenience or the idea of convenience get to me a little bit. And what I mean by that is we were in Freeport in the Bahamas, and we were at an anchorage there, and we had just dropped off our friends Griffin and Dan, and we were trying to kind of outrun this system to get to Eleuthera, where we would then have 10 days uninterrupted at anchor. We could surf, we could relax, because again, like, morale was a bit low at this point. We said goodbye to the two pals. It was just Jack and I again, which I love Jack. We get along so well. It was an awesome time. But it did kind of, we're looking at the two options of like, okay, should we kind of outrun this system? Maybe it's a bit of good amount of sailing, maybe a lot of motoring as well to get to Eleuthera, or do we wait in Freeport, wait like, at anchor for another 5-6 days, let this thing go by, and then we sail over to Eleuthera? And we kind of got the best of us when it came to like, man, sitting at anchor in Eleuthera and being able to surf and being able to have some drinks and not have to worry about this passage would be really nice. And I do think ultimately, as we were doing it and we were beating into the wind so hard and then we were motoring right into the wind, like, just remember thinking like, man, it's taking life off the boat, man. Like, we shouldn't have done this. We should have waited, and we should have done what was right by sort of like the sailing book. And, I think that was some of the ultimate demise of what had happened with the boat, was that if we would have just stayed in Freeport a little bit longer, we could have probably avoided this overall. So I think like, yeah, really trusting the gut there and making sure that, you're not trading convenience for what is right for the boat was a pretty big learning. I think the other thing too is like, God, be self-compassionate. Don't be so hard on yourself. I feel like the way that I was extremely difficult on my own mental health after the sail was really detrimental, because I get back to New York City and I'm having to explain to everybody why we didn't make it back. And I'm having to like go through this mental hurdle of like, if you were a better captain, you would have made it back, and putting so much blame on yourself and like just spiraling to the point where I was just like super depressed afterwards. And everybody was like, wait, you just did this super cool thing. Yeah, it didn't end up the way you thought it was going to, but you still like, you had an awesome time down there, the pictures and the videos. And I'm like, yeah, I can't enjoy that. I unfollowed all the sailing accounts. I followed on Instagram, put all my sailing books away.
The disappearing act.
I had to have that space.
That embarrassment, that sort of bruised ego sort of, because you go from, especially with those things, especially when you're like, check it out, guys, we got the boat and we're going here and this is this awesome thing. And then, yeah, I mean, trust me, I've definitely felt that. 2022 was a big one. I think the only difference was I had this epic footage to be like, dude, look at where I was. And so people are like, holy cow, Yeah. But no, still, it's one of those things where, yeah, obviously we always want these things to be a success. And when they don't go, because I think journeys like these and adventures like these, especially costly ones where they involve boats and stuff and really changing your life in a lot of ways, going on sabbatical or quitting your job, most people are looking at you like, I'm an idiot. What was this person doing? And so it's almost like we have to prove, like, check it out. This is why I'm doing this. This is what happened. And then when that doesn't quite live up, it's kind of like, you want to go turtle, hide in the shell for a little bit.
It's a good point, man. I mean, I do feel like, generally people are supportive and they're excited about this, but I think there's some people out there, especially folks on the internet or whatever, that are like almost kind of rooting for the downfall a little bit, because they are the ones that are jealous that you're taking this big risk and doing this big adventure. And if you're successful, maybe it makes them feel a little bit worse about themselves because they're not the ones out there doing it. And so I do feel like, yeah, generally everybody was like, hey, man, get stoked. Everything is still sick. But there probably were some people out there who were like, see, told you so. I knew you weren't ready for that.
Told you so, dude. Oh, man, it's the worst.
And it'll get you down. Even if 99% of the people are like, dude, what you did was sick. You need to hold your head up high. A couple 1% of like, yeah, I knew it was too big of a task for you.
Knew it.
Damn,
it's
dude.
like, yeah. And then that's when I always like to sort of just remind myself that Teddy Roosevelt quote, the credit belongs to the one in the arena, face marred with blood and dust. And it's like, yeah, all right, well, so I don't worry about them. But to the first point though, that was something that I used to really hate about in my early days of yacht deliveries, when I was just a crew and I had no say in what was going on at all. And I really shouldn't have anyway, because I didn't have enough experience. But there were plenty of deliveries where we set off into bad weather, because the boss or the captain or the owner was like, no, I want the boat down there at this time. And you beat up the boat. And I used to always scratch my head being like, this sucks. It's uncomfortable. I mean, I was kind of enjoying it because I was just trying to cut my teeth. So heavy weather. We went through a few storms that we shouldn't have, that I was like super stoked because I was like, wow, this is incredible. But we also damaged the boats. And yeah, all it is like, because you're sitting there trying to plot and plan. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, you know, once we're finished with this, is just passage planning. And, you know, we're going to kind of make up a plan to go out to Catalina. And yeah, the weather contingent of that is sort of the final factor of like when you leave. And so many times back in the day, and even in, you know, that 2022 trip, I knew the weather was going to be rough, but I didn't know it was going to be that rough. But I knew, you know, going out into the Gulf of Maine in late November, I knew I was going to go through one low pressure system. But I knew I had 2 days of at least good weather to get out there and work the boat in. But yeah, I mean, I can remember like actually leaving in bad weather. I won't ever do that anymore. It's all about just, it's patience. Hey, yes, we're going to lose a day off our trip, right? But it's going to be so much better in the end.
100%. Yeah, and I do feel like the times on that sail, the boat's name was Corcovado. So when we were out there with Corcovado, the times that Jack and I were very deliberate about hitting the perfect weather window, even if it sacrificed another week in the marina that I'm paying for, and we're eating money and we're eating time and we have a limited amount of time. Like the times that we were very deliberate about that, it was so pleasant. I mean, the sail from Panama up to East Mujeres, Mexico was so sick because we waited for the perfect weather window. And we always had great wind, no storms, great sea state, and it was amazing. And the times that we always tried to push it because we were on a time schedule were the times that things didn't go well. So that's a huge learning for me for sure.
Well, and it's one of those where you can't really know it until you've done it wrong, and then you know it. And then you're like, oh, you know, hindsight's 20/20. And again, I think that kind of brings it right back to the beginning of like doing trips like these, because we just get that experience out there. We go through it and we do it, and that's what builds the confidence, makes it enjoyable. And I can't wait to go do a little bit more of it.
Yeah. I know, man. I'm excited. Day 5, kind of just hammering home all the skills that we learned over the past few days and just making sure they stick, and that I'm ready to just rock it even in your absence, you know? So.
Well, I must say, like, I've been thoroughly impressed. I've got video evidence of the tacking. I want to get video evidence of putting the reef in. I mean, you were grinding it yesterday. It was like, put the reef in, take the reef out, put the reef in, go hove to, all that stuff. And I almost kind of felt, and I didn't really do much, but I felt a little sore today.
Dude,
I don't know why. Did you?
Yeah, for sure, man. Doing a lot of work out there. And like, the repetition, you know? Probably it's because we were pulling up the anchor 2 days ago, and that thing was really stuck in the mud there.
That's why.
Gotta be it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I was taking
good holding around here, around the Coronado area.
Yep, good holding for sure. So, that'll get you a little bit sore, man.
Well, thank you, Justin, for coming on, sharing a lot of that stuff, having me out here. It's been an absolute blast. Hopefully I don't screw it up today. Final day, you know, there's still plenty of hours, but yeah, it's been an extreme pleasure, and I'm super stoked, dude. And I feel like coming out of this with a good friend.
Dude, hell yeah, man. No, it's been awesome. Super appreciate all the patience and the real way that you're making everything so digestible and easy to understand. And if anybody is thinking about trying to work with you in a coaching capacity, you know, couldn't recommend it more. It is exactly what I wanted. It's allowed me to get confidence and allowed me to learn everything that I need to learn. So, big shout out to you, Jerome.
Appreciate it. All right, let's get after it.
Sweet. Thanks, Rob.